Today we are interviewing Tom Myslinski Jr., a 1986 graduate of RFA, a four-year starter at Tennessee, and he played 9 seasons in the NFL. Today we sat down with him to ask him about growing up in Rome, playing college football and professional football, and life after football as a strength and conditioning coach. Nice to meet you, Mr. Myslinski. My name is Cody Smith, and I'm a junior here at RFA. I'll start out by asking, what was it like growing up in Rome, playing youth football, through high school? What was it like just in Rome in general?
Well, I'll tell you what, Cody. So to me, when I think about growing up in Rome, I think about three things, and that's kind of faith, family, and football. And in that order, I mean, as a young kid, I always remember, we were a very religious family. And I don't know if you know, but my dad was one of the coaches at RFA for a long time. And so I always remember going to church every Sunday, whether that's at Transfiguration Church or St. Paul's, and then going to church school on Wednesday or Thursday, then being an altar boy at St. Paul's school. And then it's Lent season. So who can forget going to the Rome Polish home and having fish fries on Friday night too. So, that was a really, really important, especially my grandmother was a cook there. So all that was really important to us. And then family, we had our my on my dad's side, my grandma and grandpa, lived in South Rome. And then my grandmother lived with us. And then my aunt and uncle, Ray Tarkowski, is the voice of the Orange for RFA football. And then also, and so then I had a lot of cousins in town too. So it was, all the holidays, we're very rich with faith and family. And then how can you not go to holiday and not talk about RFA football? So I actually did a little fact checking on RFA football today. This football program in New York State history was 646 wins. They've had 21 undefeated seasons. So, Rome is just, really rich with football history. And, no matter the time of the year, everybody always talked about, Rome football. How was RFA going to be the next year? And hey, are we going to go to Syracuse and beat the heck out of those Syracuse teams like we used to? So it was, those are the things I really remember growing up in Rome.
What was your favorite memory? Do you have a favorite memory from growing up in Rome?
You know what? I really had a lot. I mean, kind of as a kid, I had a bike. And so with a bike, I had free reign. Like you guys all have cars. I had bike. And I swear to this day, that's the reason why I was so strong was it because I rode my bike everywhere around Rome. So I remember like in the summer that I would wake up in the morning, I would go to RFA, and at RFA, there would be Coach Evans and Coach Manfred, and I would have basketball. Then from basketball, I would leave to go to Franklin Field, and I would have baseball with Coach DeCoste and Coach DeCoste, and then from there I would go probably to swim lessons and lift weights at RFA, and so my whole day was jam packed. There never was a dull moment. Then I went home and ate dinner, and then I went and played with my buddies at night. So I went to Fort Stanwix, and so all my buddies lived behind Fort Stanwix, and we played chase to the wee hours of the night. So I mean, it was never a dull moment at living in Rome and growing up as a kid. So I have a ton of fond memories.
Who were your role models growing up? I mean, I know your dad was an RFA football coach. I mean, anybody else?
Probably my biggest role model was my dad. But other than that, it was all the athletes that played at RFA. I mean, when I say that RFA was my playground, and this is old RFA, because literally, I don't know if you know where my parents live, like right across from the baseball field. So I grew up at RFA. Like I knew every nook and cranny that there is to know in RFA. Like with Mo working over in the stadium, to Coach Nemai going down in the basement at RFA, to all the hallways, all the gyms. I mean, that was my playground as a kid. So really, my heroes were always, the players that played at RFA, and really. I take a lot of pride in tradition, and a lot of those guys mentored me, the coaches and the players, mentored me along, as I grew up.
What did RFA football mean to you, especially having your father as a coach? I mean, I'm sure it was a huge part in growing up in Rome, but.
Yeah, I mean, it was life, like I said earlier on. I mean, it was really all about football. I mean, even when in the off season when we were maybe I was in indoor track. We were in indoor track to get better to play football. In order to get better to play football, I mean, really everything was about playing football at RFA, and a lot of pride in that. And it was just a way. That was a way of our life. We really enjoyed it. We loved it, and we used to have a really great summer program at RFA. And I remember when I was at the University of Tennessee. I came back and I used to come back and train every summer because there wasn't a summer program that prepared me to play football better than RFA's football program. So, to me, it's very sentimental, and it's, to me, I have a lot of rich history growing up over there at RFA.
What other sports did you play in high school, and how successful were you in those other sports?
Yeah, so you know what, I kind of played everything growing up as a kid, but really I focused on indoor track and outdoor track. I wrestled a little bit. I was, an average wrestler. And I was successful. I was a two-time New York State discus champion in '86 and '87. I was, in the shop. And then obviously in football, we had great football teams. And I think '84 and '85, we were Section 3 champs. And, I kind of made a reference earlier to Rome to the Dome. I mean, that was a big deal for us, And so, we really, in some of the best trips that we had, we're traveling out to Syracuse, playing these teams, winning, and then coming home on a bus, with your buddies, and just having that camaraderie on the way home, and, really developing those friendships with your buddies. So we really, had an awesome time. No matter what sport we were in, we always had an awesome time.
I'm sure you had a lot of colleges that were interested in you, but, why did you end up choosing Tennessee? Was, any specific reason?
Well, I'll give you a big reason is, so the day after my first game in my senior year in high school, we played Fayetteville Manlius. And then the following day, I actually got in a car accident. So I wasn't able to play in another game. So I actually, fractured my leg and had a bunch of stitches on my. So the reason why I went to Tennessee ultimately is because they were one of the teams that stuck with me. And they also, the reason why I went there is they offered me a dual scholarship. And so that means that I could compete in track and field and football. And at that time, Tennessee was one of the premier teams for dual sport athletes. I mean, they had, they had Willie Galt and Sam Grady and all these great football players that also did track and field in the off season. And so really that was, really, really popular at that time with Johnny Majors at Tennessee. So that's really ultimately what attracted me to go to the University of Tennessee.
What was your experience like at Tennessee? I mean,
it was great. I mean, we won 2 SEC championships in football. We won 2 outdoor SEC championships in track and field. We won a national championship in 1991 in track and field. So I had an awesome experience, and going to the University of Tennessee, I always wanted to be a strength coach, just growing up in the weight room and, working with the guys all the time, and just spotting them, from picking up and cleaning up. And and that's what we talked about at home. We always talked about, being strong and being an offensive lineman. And so that kind of fit in. I knew how important it was as an offensive lineman to be strong and physical. So that just kind of played in with my career path. So I knew going to Tennessee, I wanted to be a strength coach. So, I also got my degree in kinesiology there. And it was perfect. So it was actually the best of both worlds.
So you had a successful career at Tennessee. You ended up getting drafted in the 4th round. What was that experience like, just knowing that your dream had come true? You're finally in the NFL.
Well, even more than that, I was probably a pro football fanatic more than a college football fanatic. So growing up as a kid, I had kind of one by the Cowboys. It was really a dream come true. So it was awesome. It was surreal, and it was. It's something you never forget. And it was great. And even going there, I had, one of my heroes that played pro football was Roger Staubach, and he was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys at that time, number 12, and he's in the Hall of Fame. And, meeting him was really kind of like, that was kind of just awesome. And, really having those experiences, and actually along the way and playing for other teams and meeting heroes or guys that you looked up to, meeting them around the facility was just.
Throughout your career, you played for multiple teams, but in Jacksonville, you found a role that you were, I'd say, the most successful in early in your career. That carried over to your time in Pittsburgh. How did you find success and keep focused on the goal of getting substantial minutes in the NFL?
Cody, I think how I found success was just getting back to my roots of hard work that I learned at Rome Free Academy, and and really just being patient and just being the best that I could be. And then once you start playing, you'll learn how to make you have to rise to the occasion. And, as you play, you get better playing the game of football. And understand when you play the game of football, there's so much that you cannot be taught about the game. And some of the greatest coaches I've had were the players that I played next to. And so really it was that experience of playing next to those, great players. So there's, for example, when I played in Pittsburgh, I played, next to two Hall of Famers, meaning Alan Faneca, who just got elected in the Hall of Fame, and Dermontti Dawson. And, playing with those guys was phenomenal. There was another player there named Tunch Ilkin, who I didn't play with, but Tunch was the greatest coach that I never played for and taught me the most about, the game. And so really was learning from the game, from the players that they really taught you how to play.
So after you retired, you became a strength and conditioning coach. I mean, you mentioned earlier you knew that's what you wanted to do when you were done, immediately when you were graduating high school. You went to college for that. And what was it like being able to find that role in the NFL in such a big organization, after?
Yeah. So, yes. I go, well, I better have a second career plan. So I when I was playing for the Steelers, I started my master's in exercise physiology at the University of Pittsburgh. And so when I was done, I really just had to take a couple more courses to finish up. And so it was kind of a seamless transition. I went from playing in the NFL to now, being an assistant in the NFL. And then I went back to college for a little bit, became a head guy. Then I had to earn my way. And so, really all in all, I've been about, 24, 25 years as a coach and a player in the NFL. And it's just been an awesome, rewarding experience. And I've loved it, every step of the way. There's good years and bad years, but really it's a dream come true for me.
You co-invented the Tunch Punch ladders. How did you come up with that idea? And, how does it work?
Well, the person we named it after, I mentioned earlier, his name's Tunch Ilkin. And basically it was just, with offensive linemen, you got to have great feet to play the game, but you also block and tackle with your hands. And so really it's just another creative way to learn how to play with your hands. And it just brings that awareness to what's going on. And really, Sweeney, he played about 16 years in the NFL. He always says that the offensive linemen are truly the only skilled position on the field. And so to me, I couldn't agree more. And obviously I'm very, biased about that, but, really everything we do is very unnatural. It's really important that, offensive lineman develops his technical skill of playing football. And so that was our way of help developing the hands and making an action like pass pro very aggressive.
I also see that you started a workout program called 904 Workouts. Our gym coaches here actually use it sometimes in class to, give ideas of what we can do. What's it like to be able to do that with your daughter?
Well, let me tell you what. So my daughter she did all the social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. And so she was on their marketing team. And so that kind of evolved from the COVID year we were stuck at home and we wanted everybody to be fit and stay fit and not go stir crazy. So that was kind of our contribution. So I try to help my daughter out and help the city of Jacksonville out at the same time and just try to give them some creative ways to staying fit and active during the pandemic when everybody was kind of trapped inside early on.
And keeping on the family side, your son recently committed to Iowa. What is it like to have your son follow in your footsteps, much like you did with your father?
Yeah, you know what? I actually have two sons, and my oldest son is actually in the field of strength and conditioning. He's actually right now finishing up his master's, and he wants to be a strength and conditioning coach, and he hopes to get his PhD. And then I have my youngest son, who's very fortunate to. My oldest boy actually went to Air Force Academy originally to play football. So, and then my daughter was a track heptathlete at Jacksonville University, and my youngest son is, as you said, going to University of Iowa to be an offensive lineman. And so really sports kind of runs, in our family. And, that's, my wife was an athlete, and her name's Amy Delhunt, and she's from Rome, New York as well. So we're a very sporty family. So, my one prerequisite in the family is you always had to play a sport. It didn't matter what sport it was, but you always had to be fit and active. And, I always let my kids choose their path. I never wanted to choose their path for them. And my youngest son is very fortunate to go to, and he's going to be, he's a 2021, and, he's really excited. And the University of Iowa is notorious for turning out offensive linemen. And their head football coach is Kirk Ferentz, who was an offensive line coach. The offensive coordinator used to be an offensive line coach. And then they have an offensive line coach so now they have three offensive line coaches actually there working with the offensive linemen. So it's really it's a great opportunity for him, and I know he's really, really excited to go there. I think he's got to report sometime in June.
The last thing I had for you, what are some words of wisdom you have for RFA students and athletes?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is kind of what I echoed earlier is that never give up on your dreams and just keep working. We were always, we kind of grew up with the blue collar work ethic, and I think it's really important, and you always have to, reinvent yourself all the time. And, you got to work hard, and it's all about working hard, and it's intensely working hard. When I talk about the NFL players that really succeed in the NFL, there's two things that they do really well: is that they're really in tune to their body and they practice deliberately. That means everything they do is very important to them. So, whatever you do it with the utmost importance, and, your dreams are going to work out.
All right, well, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for sitting down, answering some questions. And it's great to talk to somebody that's found success, from Rome in the NFL.
Well, Cody, I appreciate you having me. And like I said, it's, my wife and I are both from Rome, and we haven't been back to Rome so much with the COVID back up this year. So thanks for the opportunity, and give everyone my best, please.
Once again, we'd like to thank Tom Myslinski Jr. for coming on the show. It's great to see that hard work truly pays off.